You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Listening to the Bells of Liberty podcast, where freedom rings and the sassiness stings. Stay tuned for a little bit of sassy freedom. You are listening to the Bells of Liberty. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. This isn't our very first show. We've actually been podcasting for a while, but it is our very first show with the Lanterns Radio Network. So we're very excited about our move to Lanterns and are looking forward to sharing what we've got, both with our new network and with you, our listeners. If you've been following us from the beginning, thank you so much for sticking with us and supporting us as we start this new adventure. Since we're new around the neighborhood, we thought we would take a minute to introduce ourselves, who we are, and why we've decided to be the Bells of Liberty. So let's get started with the introductions.
So, since I'm Batman, I guess that means I'm going first, yes?
Possibly.
Hey, I'm Batman. So, I'm Courtney. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3. I've been interested in politics probably since I was 13, 14. One of my first memories of getting super involved in community politics was dragging my dad into town, making him take me to go, I think, it was one of our representatives that we heard, so that was fun. And pretty much since then, I have just wanted to, I'm kind of the everyday person who's interested in politics. I want to make politics accessible to people like me who are busy moms or whatnot and don't have time to be super involved, but need to be involved on the community level. So that's kind of my focus in doing this, and just kind of getting the information out to people to help them become more involved too. So anyway, that's me.
Cool. I guess I'm next. I'm Sammy. I am a Seattle native, but because I married a soldier, I'm temporarily displaced. But despite my liberal hometown, I've been a conservative since I was about in 3rd grade, trading opinions with kids on the playground. My professional background is that I've been a behavioral therapist for kids with special needs for the past 13 years, and I'm also the daughter of a teacher. So all of that has caused me to be really passionate in the political sphere, especially on topics like the military, education, and healthcare reform.
And that just leaves me. My name is Jana. I'm a proud Iowan, and if you judge me, whatevs. It's fine. It's not that bad. If I'm going to define where I'm at in politics or beliefs, I am definitely a conservative. I know there's a lot of divisiveness over labels, but I'd rather be called conservative than a Republican. That's for sure. I love this country, and I've said on many occasions that I'm blessed to have been born here. And despite having been to several European countries in my life, and despite how incredible their history is in each of those places, they're not here. So I do believe that America is exceptional, and not just because I think it is. And we really are afforded some incredible freedoms that are truly absent in the world outside of our borders. So for me, if in some small way I can help people recognize that again, or even just get them to listen and maybe come to their own conclusions, I would consider that a win. So I don't like the road we're on in this country, and if we're not careful before we know it, we're going to be longing for the days where all we argued over was which football team sucked more. So I do this podcast hopefully to try to show that an average American woman, I am a preschool director, so I do work with kids on a daily basis, and so I do have a hand a little bit in helping shape the coming generations. So that's kind of a passion for me, and I guess education reform would be something I'm sort of into myself. I don't know that there's a pet topic that I'm into. I just am definitely for limited government. So I think the less the government is involved, the happier I and everyone else will be. So I just want people to know that, like I said, an average American woman who works full time has to pay bills and goes through things that a lot of other people do, can be conservative and can still have a voice and can shine a light on what Americans are really saying and thinking in a time that's oversaturated with mainstream media and talking heads. So that's my goal for this podcast, and I'm super excited that we have a platform now where maybe more people can hear what we have to say. So now that we've gotten the introductions out of the way, let's get going. It's been about a week since Tomi Lahren tried to convince us that you can call yourself a conservative and be pro-choice. And that's like saying you're a vegan, but you still eat bacon. As hard as progressives and social justice warriors try to argue that you can, there are things you really do have to draw a hard line at and just can't budge from in order to maintain that you are what you say you are. So Tomi's argument that you can't be for limited government while expecting the government to make abortion illegal, well, I would like to respectfully disagree. And that if you want to advertise yourself as a conservative who is a constitutional, for someone who says she doesn't like labels, she's managed to come up with like 3 or 4 new ones just in the last 2 months alone. So if she should advertise herself as anything, it's as a label maker. So anyway, I feel like if you're going to label yourself that, you really do need to understand that the first line of our Declaration of Independence, the precursor to the Constitution you are supposedly for, includes life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I would like to argue that you cannot have liberty or pursue happiness without life. It did not have an addendum that said you have to be physically born in order to enjoy those freedoms, and they are endowed at you at the moment of your creation. So the semantics of you being a zygote or an infant really doesn't matter to me. So I was recently involved in a debate on Facebook, and I guess by debate I mean this person was wrong. But as I'm a constitutional, I believe that's okay, even though they're wrong. And this person had responded to an article our friend, and I guess our new boss, Jonathan Dunn, had posted regarding the comments Tomi had made on the View, and essentially said that he felt it was heartbreaking to see someone redefining conservatism, and that using this argument in supposed support of a limited government would likely have caused our founding fathers great distress. And I do agree with this, because I feel like using such an argument is indicative of someone who's truly undereducated on the thing they say they're for, and certainly unclear on what they believe. So I have a couple things to say about this, that regardless of all of this, the person came to this post and started an argument that makes my blood boil every time someone uses it. And that first argument is, my problem is that many are pro-life until the child is born, and then it's do not touch my money to support a child that is not mine. And that opens up such a can of BS arguments that I think we can get into.
Of course.
Right. And that, I think it just stems from, I really do think that if you're going to call yourself a conservative, I think at the center of that is being pro-life. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of conservatives or people who claim to be conservative and they're pro-choice, and, that's their right. But I can't see how you can be conservative and truly believe in the Constitution and truly believe in people having the rights that they have if you don't believe they have them from the second that spark of life starts in them, which is, in my view, and I think science view, is at that moment of conception. Is that a fair
right.
a fair assessment?
Yeah. Well, it's easier to go with the science on this because everything else just falls into place. I mean, all the arguments become way easier if you just rely on science and not feelings and emotions. So, yes. Right.
And I think it's easy to overlook as a matter of convenience, and an easy answer to justify a woman's right to choose is that she and the person with whom she created a child with shouldn't have to be responsible, especially if, birth control fails, or that they should be able to choose not to use protection if they want to. And, to quote millennials, it's 2017, guys. We know how babies are made. We have technology that can tell you pretty much almost instantaneously that you are pregnant. And there's absolutely no excuse for anyone who chooses to have sex not to know what can happen if you choose not to use some form of birth control. If there is fear that it's going to fail, then there's at least one guaranteed way to not get pregnant ever. But people who are definitely pro-feel good whenever they want never seem to look at that as an option because it might mean they have to choose not to do something that will risk a pregnancy. So I don't understand that people like me who believe a life is a life is a life have to take on the responsibility after you've made those decisions. I still believe babies have a right to live, even if they weren't necessarily wanted, because they're still a life. So this person went on to ask me if I was really pro-life or pro-responsibility, and I said in that case, what did it have to do with the right to life? And I'm like, son, please. The two should work in yeah, exactly. The two should work in tandem, especially if you're a conservative. If you don't believe the founding fathers didn't have a belief that part of being a free society means the individual is responsible for their own well-being, then it might behoove you to reread certain documents, because the whole point of declaring independence from England was because of individual liberty, and making one's own way was more important than being micromanaged by a king or government that thinks it knows better than you. So yes, I think being pro-life also expects being pro-other people should not have to take care of your problems if they don't want to. So that, I feel like, is such a failed and overused argument. And then the next is that how many of you pro-life supporters have gone out and adopted abandoned children? And it sounds like you're part of the problem.
I hate that one.
Yeah. So
I have a friend who has personally tried to adopt 3 foster children because she is a single foster mom, and she has tried. Once was 2 siblings, and this latest one, a little girl who is just going to be a year next month, and she's had her for a couple months now, and she wants to be mom, but she doesn't really see marriage being something on her horizon, but she wants to be a mom. So she's been fostering, and she's been trying to get these kids 3 times now. It's been kind of like, well, this could work. This could happen for you. But it doesn't, because family members have priority, which they should. But the argument is, that you don't care enough about kids. You're not trying to adopt, or, whatever. It's like, well, actually, there are a lot of people who are pro-life who are trying to get these children, and it's really maddening, because all the kids are in foster care. Not all of them are available to take for your own. So I mean, it's a ridiculous argument.
Well, I mean, and it's infuriating to me because like I said at the very beginning, I work with children for a living, and a lot of them are from, given the demographic that I work with, a lot of them are from single-parent homes. A lot of them are in foster care or in a situation where they've been abandoned or given up for adoption or are not in ideal situations. I've had to work with the Department of Human Services more times than I have fingers to count with. So I have a basic understanding of the system, even though I'd rather not. And so one of the arguments that came up with this is like, well, there's so many children in foster care. Why aren't you adopting them? They're already here. Why do you care about the ones that aren't born? Well, first of all, not every child in foster care is available to adopt. DHS's supposed goal when a child is removed from the home is reunification with their parents. Depending on the severity of why the child was removed, how long it takes for the parent to complete the rehabilitation, parenting classes, or jail time, or whatever, it can take anywhere from a few weeks to years for a child to be reunified. And that's not the fault of those who are pro-life, much less those looking to adopt. So I am so sick of hearing that argument from people. And parental rights, in my experience, don't tend to be severed until sometimes 3 or 4 chances are afforded to get their children back. So it's a vicious circle. Not to mention, not every social worker or foster parent is good at their job, which can also lengthen a child's stay in foster care and limit their chances of being adopted by families who actually desperately want them. And that's what's upsetting me is the argument is flawed because it doesn't take into account every variable that explains each child's reason for being in foster care and why they're not being adopted, and it usually has 0 to do with being unwanted. And, if you want all pro-lifers to adopt every child, children should absolutely be protected from abusive parents, but how often have we seen stories of homeschooling families being harassed by DHS because it irks the government that someone might want to educate their children in a way that isn't public school? Or,
Yeah.
you know, how many stories have we seen of children actually dying at the hands of true abusive parents, despite multiple reports made by mandatory reporters and visits from DHS?
Yep.
And, you know, they should have been removed and they weren't. So maybe stop letting the government run private charities and children's homes out of business because they don't like competition and, you know, it's easy to make bank off of a child's misery. I feel like if we made sure that the government wasn't involved in every single thing, we'd get somewhere.
Yes, we would.
Right. And, you know, there's so many reasons why we should be rooted in our principles as conservatives, and being pro-life is so central to that as a conservative, that to be called hypocrites for being the ones who actually stand in and try and conserve that piece of our culture is offensive. But unfortunately, we have to go into a break right now. When we come back, we will have a topic on originalism. So stick around.
Talking about conservatism and what is central to the conservative movement, it's fair to say that originalism is a fairly important area in that realm as well, as conservatives tend to hold fast to the spirit and intent of the Constitution and how it defines this country. So that leads us into our next discussion, so take it away, Courtney.
So possibly a lot of you have been watching the Gorsuch confirmation hearings, and so we have a little bit of a gem of a video to listen to real fast.
Do you agree with Justice Scalia's statements that originalism means there is no protection for women or gays and lesbians under the Equal Protection Law because this was not the intent or understanding of those who drafted the 14th Amendment in 1868?
Senator, first of all, a good judge starts with precedent and doesn't reinvent the wheel. So to the extent there are decisions on those topics, and there are, a good judge respects precedent. That's the first point. The second point I'd make is it would be a mistake to suggest that originalism turns on the secret intentions of the drafters of the language of the law. The point of originalism, textualism, whatever label you want to put on it, what a good judge always strives to do, and I think we all do, is try to understand what the words on the page mean, not import words that come from us, but apply what you, the people's representatives, the lawmakers, have done. And so when it comes to equal protection of the laws, for example, it matters not a whit that some of the drafters of the 14th Amendment were racists, because they were, or sexist, because they were. The law they drafted promises equal protection of the laws to all persons. That's what they wrote. And the original meaning of those words, John Marshall Harlan captured them in his dissent in Plessy. And equal protection of the laws does not mean separate in advancing one particular race or gender. It means equal. And as I said yesterday, I think that guarantee, equal protection of the laws guarantee, the 14th Amendment, that it took a civil war for this country to win, is maybe the most radical guarantee in all of the Constitution and in maybe all of human history. It's a fantastic thing. And that's why it's chiseled in Vermont marble above the entrance to the Supreme Court of the United States.
I think we can all agree that that was a pretty amazing clip. I love that he starts off with, she tries to bait him in, he just comes back with a good judge starts with precedent. He's like, it's not my job to reinterpret the law. It's my job to take what the letter is and make sure that the law lines up with the original intent of the Constitution. And what it boils down to is what I've seen a lot, and what I've seen a lot of is that the left, and I know this, I'm preaching to the choir here, but the left is mad because they don't have someone. Gorsuch is not someone who is going to be on their side. So they're afraid that he's going to do the same thing that they've been trying to do to America for a long time, which is rewrite the law according to what they want. And now they don't have that, and so now they have to fight him. I was reading an article that Slate put out, and they're like, well, we need a filibuster, and we need a filibuster now. He can't be confirmed. And I was looking at, there was absolutely no substance in it. It was just basically like, well, we can't have him because he's not one of us. That was basically the entirety, the substance of this this article. And I don't, I would think, and this just makes sense to me because I'm more, logic driven, not emotion driven and whatnot. But I would think even if I didn't appreciate like always winning, I would want there to be a solid law in place and that you would have a judge that you could count on to interpret the law as it is supposed to be and not based on what the weather is. So that's kind of an interesting thing. You're kind of seeing this come up with the left on this. They're just like, well, we can't have him because he's not going to rewrite the law the way we want him to write it. So, and then I really love the part, this quote here. He says, it matters not that they were racist or sexist because some of them were. It says, the law that they drafted promised equal protection of the laws. And I think that that's something that the left needs to remember, that it doesn't matter. It's not your feelings or opinions, and we don't need special laws because the law just says equal protection. So that should be good enough. And it's somehow not. And I would encourage all of you to go and look up more of his hearings, especially with Feinstein, because it was very interesting how she tried to ask him these weird topics, and she pulled some stuff out. It was really weird. She's like, well, 15 years ago you said this, and he's like, I would feel more comfortable if I got to see what you're talking about. And
well, they've been doing that since day one, asking him about things that happened years ago or have nothing to do with being confirmed as a judge. Because, not just Feinstein, however you say her name. I say stupid, but it's fine. Fine, stupid. But I think it was Kamala Harris. Is that how you say her name?
Yes.
She tweeted today with breathless concern. Judge Gorsuch has consistently valued legalisms over real lives. I won't support his nomination. And my response to that is legalisms as in the law, as in he's doing his job, which is why he would be hired to be on the Supreme Court. So, okay, I thought that's what HR did, was they found people who will do their job rather than let how they feel about somebody determine how they're going to find judgment. That's why all of our statues of justice have her with a blindfold on, because it's not about who the person is that's sitting in front of them. It's what their actions were. Are they innocent until they're innocent until proven guilty? We have the whole justice system is based off of these laws. Were they breaking the law? How did they break the law? Why did they break the law? And the court of their peers has determined that they need to be put behind bars or set free. That is why justice is blind. So I hate all of these gotcha, as Sammy has said in other podcasts. The gotcha mafia likes to come after people because they don't feel sorry for a situation, or they don't feel sorry for a person, and they're looking for ways to trip him up, because as, progressives do, it's not about, is this the right thing to do? It's about, does this mean that the other side wins?
Well, and not only that, but they make a habit on the left of redefining terms, right? So I liked at the beginning how he said, we're not here to redefine the wheel. He, with what the legalism that Kamala Harris used, legalism is tied to Christians who are stuck on the law, who say we should still stone people for being gay, right? That's what the left is trying to paint a picture as. And for originalism, they tried with these arguments saying that he wants to side with these racist, sexist, white founders who were terrible, horrible humans who were all about oppressing people, even though, and then he turned that around and said, you know what, maybe that's true, but what they wrote is not what you're saying. So it doesn't matter their attitudes. What matters is what they wrote. And he also said, what matters is what you, the lawmakers in Congress, it matters what you write. So reminding them that it's still important for them today.
Yeah, they do forget that real fast, because they like to turn it on other people as a, well, look what you did. Well, look what you did with your 5 million pages of useless law. I think the founders were all about simplicity. That's why the Declaration of Independence was 1 frickin' page long. It's not about how much you can shove onto, how many pages you can shove words onto. It's, can you get your point across within a sentence, which is what they should be doing for every single bill they write. I feel like every bill should be limited to 1 page. And I think he made a good point of turning around and saying, I'm going to be doing, what I have to do to follow the laws that you people set before me. So if you can't handle that, maybe you should find a new job.
There are the two things that really stood out for me on this one was what Kamala Harris's tweet about that was, it makes me feel like I have to be a super special victim to be able to get justice, because if we're not valuing the law, we're valuing real lives, then if my story or my victim, whatever state of victimhood isn't compelling enough, then I'm not going to get justice. So, I mean, I would rather have the law on my side. I don't want people's emotions. I don't want those sort of things. And the other thing that stood out to me was, I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that before Trump took office and we were waiting to confirm a judge, I thought that it was unconstitutional and unprecedented that we would wait this long to have a judge confirmed. And now they're saying, the left is saying, oh, well, we need to filibuster and you absolutely cannot get in. So it's like, at least we're seeing, for those who will see it, we're seeing the transparent hypocrisy from the left. Like, oh, absolutely, we have to have a judge. This is unprecedented. We need to hurry up and get them confirmed. And then, oh, wait, it's not someone we like. So let's go ahead and drag our feet. Maybe for the next 4 years. I don't know. They probably would totally do that. I always come up with random numbers like, oh, the next 12 years that, Trump is president, just to see if I can get people to freak out. What? No!
We have to run into a break really quick, but our next segment might teach Courtney about the Constitution and how it says that we can only have presidents serve 2 4-year terms. So stick with us.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
The Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. Our next segment is new and hopefully a regular addition to our show. We are calling it Constitutorial, as it's become more and more clear that Americans need a re-education on what the Constitution does and doesn't say. So this week we're starting right at the beginning with the preamble, which states, "We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America."
I feel like I should put like some sort of really patriotic da 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 like as you're talking. I should do that. I'll just edit that in. It'll be great. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know how to come.
I've totally screwed up, guys. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So this is one of the most recognizable parts of our Constitution, and yet, interestingly, it holds no legal weight in a court of law. However, that doesn't mean that it holds no significance, as it was a later addition to the founding document as a means of framing the spirit and vision of the founders for their goal for what lied within it. It was also added to embrace the spirit of the Declaration of Independence, which also holds no legal standing in a court of law. And from our previous segments, obviously, we've talked about originalism, we've talked about the Declaration of Independence, and it's pretty simple and straightforward. So I just have some fun facts about the preamble that I didn't know before we started this. So the preamble, the original version of the preamble did not refer to the United States of America. Initially, it just referred to the various states, and then again was changed one more time to list each individual state. But as now we have 50 states, that would be a really long introduction. So that's when they finally decided, okay, we're just going to say the United States of America. And although it's never been used as a deciding factor in a court case, the wording has caused many debates in our nation's history, including during the lead up to the Civil War, people were arguing whether or not secession was legal based on the phrase, "in order to form a more perfect union." And if you are paying attention, you might recognize this next judge's name. So in 1904, there was a court case called Jacobson versus Massachusetts, and he was a pastor who was arguing against mandatory vaccinations. In his original homeland of Sweden, they had a mandatory vaccination policy. But since he had come to America, which said it was the land of the free, he did not feel that he should have to be subjected to mandatory vaccinations. So he argued he was fined $5, which in our day would be $130 for not being vaccinated. And he argued against this and brought it all the way to the Supreme Court. And the decision was handed down by John Marshall Harlan, who in our previous segment we learned gave the dissent in Plessy versus Ferguson. And he set the precedent, another thing that's important to originalists, in his decision. And he said, although the preamble indicates the general purposes for which the people ordained and established the Constitution, it has never been regarded as a source of any substantive power conferred on the government of the United States or on any of its departments. Such powers embrace only those expressly granted in the body of the Constitution, and such as may be implied from those so granted. Although, therefore, one of the declared objects of the Constitution was to secure blessings of liberty to all under the sovereign jurisdiction and authority of the United States, no power can be exerted to that end by the United States unless, apart from the preamble, it be found in some express delegation of power or in some power to be properly implied therefrom. But just because the preamble is not legally binding, again, it doesn't mean it's not significant. Judges, including Neil Gorsuch, have gone to it for generations when coming to important decisions. The Constitution has stood the test of time, not because we have not made any progress in the last 300 years. It's survived because it's in the forefront of our minds that the spirit of the Constitution is right there at the very beginning.
That's a really good point.
Agreed.
The spirit of it is right there in the front. It's like there's no guessing. This is what it is.
Well, like I said, the founders were definitely looking at it from a simplistic point of view, I think. I mean, it's no different than, having you have to fit your argument into 300 words or less when you're in college. Well, I don't know if they do that anymore, since that might be a microaggression against somebody, but I just...
Well, grammar is a microaggression.
Yeah, it's hard. Even just spelling out entire words is a microaggression, I think, to people these days. But, I do think that the simplicity of it is what makes it so poignant and perfect. Well, not necessarily perfect, but you know what I mean? Like, it's easy to support. I've never felt particularly drawn to tax law. Ever.
No.
But when people start talking about the Constitution, my interest is immediately piqued, because these were not men who were necessarily involved in politics from the get-go. These weren't people that were trained to be politicians. These were people who were farmers and people who lived off the land. This was not a job for them. This was a duty. So to form a more perfect union that wasn't being micromanaged by a king or by a sovereign government, I think is really what we should focus on when we're talking about this. So I'm all about originalism, girls. I'm all about it. that original Constitution, Z-Snap, I'm all for it, because it's simple, and you don't have to wade through pages and pages and pages of law to figure out what does this actually stand for. It's right flippin' there, and all you have to do is read it to understand it and understand what it means and grasp that this is just defining what your rights are. It's not giving you rights, it's just defining what it is. Sorry,
well,
I ramble. I know.
You preamble, not.
I pre-ramble. That's what I do.
Preamble on. I have to say, I think I agree with that it's simple, it's straightforward. I mean, you guys laugh at me because I don't know how to describe myself in very wordy words, but I like straightforward and to the point, and it leaves less for misunderstanding. And I think you see this too, like, kind of get a little bit off topic, but the Second Amendment, it's pretty clear. Like, but we'll
get there.
We're all
stop fast forwarding. These are going to be this is going to be another segment.
I'm using it as an analogy, as a lesson. We're all caught up in about what it could mean, or what they had no.
They meant muskets, Courtney. They meant muskets.
Yeah, exactly. But they were pretty straightforward, and I think that it's rather a disservice to the forefathers who were coming from England, and like, it's basically just saying that they were just hillbillies who had no idea what was going on in the world. They had no clue as to, like, they just no street smarts or intelligence, and they just wrote this Declaration of Independence and this Constitution. They're just like, hey, these are some words. Let's put them on some pages and sign our name on it. They had insight, and they had foresight, and and they were straightforward about it, because John Hancock, we laugh about it, like, he signed his name huge so that everyone would know that he was part of this, and that just kind of, to me, is the spirit of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Is straightforward, and it's out there for everybody to see, just right there.
Well, they argued over what words to use. That's what I think. That's something people don't seem to remember, is that Jefferson scribbled out and rewrote and scribbled out several words because while he was drafting this, because he wanted to make sure anybody and everybody who read it could understand it. And that they would argue over what does that word mean, and we have to be very specific about what we're saying. Whereas people these days couldn't give two craps about, that he did that.
And they think that the forefathers were not intelligent enough to come up with something that could stand the test of time.
Or,
I think it's...
Go ahead.
I think it's really funny when I was reading about some of this stuff. It was on the last day of the Constitutional Convention, they sent the idea of having a preamble to a style committee. So they wanted it to sound good. They really wanted it to resonate with people, because to them, this is their blood and their treasure. This is what they fought so hard for and what they sacrificed for. And they wanted people to know exactly what it is that they're saying, and what, obviously the Constitution's a bit longer than the preamble. And so if not everyone could read or comprehend the full text of it, they still wanted them to know what it was about and what they were giving to them.
Right. People bled and died for that. I think that should be enough to get people behind it. Is, they didn't go out and get shot, dead, or walk through Valley Forge with bloodied feet just because they felt like it. It was, this was something worth fighting for. And just because it's a couple hundred years later doesn't mean that it's not worth fighting for now. We just don't have to use muskets. We have handguns now, guys. Let's get with the times.
Friday is my day to, help process concealed carries at my sheriff's office. So I kind of help, I kind of feel like I help everybody kind of.
I'm helping you with your Second Amendment right. You go.
Right. Another thing, real quick, Dana, the other thing about John Hancock's signature, the reason why it was so big was basically because he said, I know I'm going to be a target if I sign this, so I may as well make it really huge on the page. So, because it was kind of like a big, come at me, bro. And I love, but I mean, we say they fought and died for it. Well, they did. He knew he was signing that he was going to be signing his death warrant. He's like, I may as well make it big, so for sure that was me.
Yeah, those are people with spines. What's that like?
Yes, this is why I love them. I love the forefathers.
Well, ladies, this was a lot of fun, and I really hope this can be a regular topic because obviously I'm kind of a history nerd. I think all of us are to some extent. So we have to leave it here. We're going to go into a break, and when we come back, we're going to have a really fun segment to end the show. Welcome back. Now it's time to ring the bell. This is a fun segment that we are planning to discuss some topics that really got our blood boiling this week. Let's start off with Gina's. What rung your bell?
We talked about this. Sammy, we talked about this. Okay.
Can't help it.
Uh-huh. We said, don't say ring my bell, Sammy, because that sounds weird. And Sammy's like, okay. And then 5 minutes later, Sammy's saying, what rang your bell? Okay, so what rang the bell was a story that I saw a couple days ago about a high school in Illinois. And I don't know if I can say it or not, because I don't know what it is about high schools that we can't name them after presidents anymore. But this one I think is Aquin High School in Illinois. And they've decided that you're not allowed to choose your own prom date anymore. They will be chosen for you. So dates are randomly assigned. And essentially what happens is the boys get to draw names, and then each boy has to think of a creative skit to use to ask their date to the dance. And school officials think that this is a good way to make sure everyone feels included. So when they have their prom on May 5th, everyone will have a date, and you won't have decided who you wanted to go with.
I have so many issues with this.
I have several issues with this.
Sexist. That only the boys get to pick.
That was my first issue. Yeah. I'm like, why does it, we just got done saying how, the patriarchy and how boys are always dominating, men are always dominating, whatever. Why is it that the boys have to pick out the name, and then why do they have to be the ones that come up with the creative little skit to ask the person that they probably didn't want to ask in the first place?
Right. And it's like an assignment now, which is not fun about prom.
Right. What if you don't want to go to prom? Are they making a requirement, or is this their way of saying, well, we didn't have the money to fund prom, so this is hopefully a way to get them to not go? So we don't have to pay for anything now. It just doesn't seem fair. I don't understand why every little thing has to be micromanaged. I'm sorry, I feel bad for people who don't get asked to prom. I managed to get asked to my senior prom, but I had to ask other people to go to dances with me. 9 times out of 10, I was going stag with my girlfriends. I was not, never got asked to go until senior prom. And you know what? I survived. And I'd say I'm a fairly well-rounded person, both physically and mentally. So I don't understand why this can't just be a learning experience. And if you want to go with someone, just get the courage to ask. And if they say no, whatever. Find a way to enjoy yourself regardless.
We're becoming homogenized is what it is. There's no, everybody has to have the same experience or pretty well close to it. And I have a problem with that because, first of all, I do what I want. So no thanks. And also differences. It's so funny because the left says that diversity and difference makes us strong and all that kind of stuff. And yet they try their darndest to make everybody the same. Well, I actually believe in diversity and difference, and I like people having different opinions and different life experiences than me.
Well, it's just like participation trophies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of people not being treated the same, we're really running into time. So getting to the next topic, which was mine. So Nail Salon says that overweight women were going to be charged a fee if they wanted a pedicure. And we've had many episodes of our podcast, if you want to go back and listen, talking about fat shaming. This is an example of fat shaming. They said that there was a reason because 2 of their chairs had already been broken and it cost them $2,500 to replace them. I feel like the solution to this is not to charge every overweight person an extra fee for being overweight. It's if you break it, you bought it.
Yeah.
Would kind of be my feeling of fairness or whatever.
Or
but
the price overall for everybody. Just
right.
a couple dollars, not like, oh, you're fat, so wait, let me get on the scale. Oh, okay. You're not. There's 2 pounds difference.
When I was younger, there was a restaurant. Actually, it was Claim Jumper. I don't know if they did it all around the country, but kids were weighed before they could. It was determined whether or not they could eat off the kids menu. And as a chubby little kid, that embarrassed me, and I never wanted to do it. And so my mom just said, we'll pay for the adult meal for her because she's not going to go stand up on a scale in front of everybody in the waiting area to be weighed to see what.
Did they think that was like a cute little gimmick? Like, oh, we're going to weigh your fat ass? I don't understand the logic
I can understand having to measure a kid to get on a ride to make sure they're tall enough so they don't fall out of the seat, but putting a scale out and being like, well, you're a fat little kid, so I guess you can't eat on the little kid menu. That's crap. And I would
Well, and my sister was like 30
not
pounds
go there
until she was in like 5th grade, and I was obviously more than that when I was in like 2nd grade. So it was really embarrassing for me. So Courtney, your topic.
My last topic, feminazism as taking it away again. We have the feminists are angry at Wonder Woman. Why, you ask? I don't know, except that it's that she has shaved armpits. So I'm not really sure why I need to care about that, because, oh wait, no, that's right. Wonder Woman is a true story and is completely factual, and we need to make sure every freaking detail is perfect like that. So I would like to know why she has shaved armpits too. They're completely right on this. I totally agree.
I don't understand why being a strong female character also equals having bushy armpits. Like they can't have discovered Nair on the Amazonian home island. Like, that's not allowed. We can't shave and possibly not want hair sticking out of our armpits. I don't know. That's stupid. They says because she is an Amazon, and what business the Amazons have shaving their armpits or recognizing hygiene?
Her legs were shaved too, so why are they mad about that?
She should have just been Sasquatch.
The patriarchy.
Oh man,
I'm pretty sure the feminists are going to have to pay me to care about this, and it's only going to be feigned caring at best.
And it'll go into my razor fund so I can shave my pits.
Oh yeah,
I just don't understand.
Feminists are not happy unless they're miserable.
I was gonna say being miserable, because if I don't shave my legs or something, and I wear jeans and my hair rubs against my jean fabric, I'm overstimulated. This is the worst. It's like razor on my leg right now. So I don't understand. It's not a beauty standard for me.
I don't get why feminists are so focused on bodies anyway. If it's not armpit hair, it's uteruses and periods. And if it's not that, then it's some other disgusting, not important topic. That's all they've got.
If you listen to some of our previous very, very early podcasts, we talked about the trend of dyeing your armpit different color. People are just weird. I have nothing for it. It's just they're weird.
Why I don't apologize for shaking my fists at people walking by and going, "Get off my lawn," because people are just weird and they should leave me alone.
And take your dyed armpit hair with you.
Or dye one armpit and then shave the other. I don't know. Maybe that could make someone happy. I don't know.
That'll stick it to the patriarchy. Well,
out of it.
We've had a lot of fun with our first episode on the Lanterns Radio Network. We're so happy to be here, and we're glad you've taken the time to stop in and listen to us, and hope you'll join us again next week. You'll find us here on Saturdays at 6 p.m. If you're interested in listening to any of our other shows, they are available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and now they'll be available on Spreaker and also Google Play Music. So go ahead and take a look at those, listen in. You can find us on Facebook, The Bells of Liberty on Facebook, or you can find us at Bells of Liberty on Twitter. So go ahead and find us on social media. That's where you're going to find all of our updates, links to our shows when they're available. And also feel free to follow Lanterns as well, which is lanterns.buzz on the internet, and Lanterns Buzz on Facebook and on Twitter. So go ahead and give them a follow on all of the updates of all the other shows that Lanterns has available, and some pretty interesting articles from very talented writers. So we're excited to be here, and we hope to see you next week.
Peace out.
Goodbye. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, I'll do.
Oh, sure. It's okay when
it's okay when I do it, because I don't do it every episode. Thanks for listening to the Bells of Liberty podcast. Want to listen to more sassy content? All shows are available free on demand on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play Music. Have something to say? You can find us on Twitter at Bells of Liberty, and also on Facebook, www.facebook.com/The Bells of Liberty. And as always, Keep calm and ring on.